Hello everybody, Buddy Webb, Midland, Texas. I'm going to do a little short video today, and I'm going to talk about specifically just the Home Depot store directly behind my house. And I went through and I found, the different evidence files and how I believe that's probably connected to the crimes here, crimes and murders, the underground homes, and etc. What we're looking at right now is Google Maps. Most people are familiar with that. It's just on the internet. Go to maps.google.com. You put in my address at 3802 Fair Circle, and it shows you there's the front of my house, and directly behind my house is the Home Depot store. Okay, I've adjusted my contrast so it'll be a little bit easier to see on the screen. I've showed this many times. Multiple people are documented as saying that there's underground homes are here, and one woman I recorded told me that there was 4 3-bedroom underground homes buried at least 25 foot deep, each costing over $1 million a piece. Another woman said she worked on this project, finished 1987, had a budget of $7.35 million. She named the company she worked for. She said they were put in for George H.W. Bush when he was a vice president. He's from Midland, and finished in 1987. I even recorded a guy that was running for sheriff during the election, Joe Lozano, that said our last sheriff, Gary Painter, used to hang out in these underground homes. These underground homes, it looks like one is in my backyard. It's believed that's where the famous and wild oil show parties were being held. And in 2010, my friend Angie told me about a young girl that was murdered at an oil show party. In 2013, the remains of a young girl were found outside of Midland. I believe that was the girl. And so I believe it was in these underground homes. Angie was leaving my home and at the party in 5 minutes. And what I really think she's doing, because here's my home on the map, we were talking on the phone while she drove there, and so I knew it was 5 minutes away. And I believe she was parking in front of Home Depot, going underground here, and then coming back towards my house via a tunnel that could be seen on Google Maps. I'll show you that here in a minute. And in my backyard, this is real important. You see here, this is my house, but there's a large building right here in the backyard. That building cannot be seen from above ground. I'm going to show you what I mean. I'm going to switch over here to satellite, and we're going to look at the above ground picture. See, there's no building there. But if you look at the block picture, there's a building there, okay? And so I believe that is one of the underground homes that multiple people have said was here. One thing I wanted to point out, and the reason that I'm making this video, is that over here between Home Depot and Target, it looks like there's something else there, okay? Do you see that in between here? I'm going to show you right there. And once again, I'm going to switch over to the satellite. You don't see it, okay? So I wondered if there's something underground there, okay? And we're going to look at that here in a minute from Google Earth. And so I wanted to show you that these maps here, okay? This here, okay, is Google Earth, okay? And so that's a download, Google Earth. I did the same thing. We're looking at a satellite picture. And one thing I want to show you here, this is a dated map, plane flew over a satellite, and it's dated June 16, 2011. That's about 6 months before I was ambushed and shot by somebody under my home. And I live in this house right here. Somebody under this house shot me, okay? In the backyard right here is where it's believed one of the underground homes is located. And what I always point out is, look right here, is the asphalt. You can see where the ground was cut. I believe a tunnel was coming from the Home Depot store directly to my house. I mean, it's aimed directly at my house. And that's where I believe that Angie, had, and the people at the oil show party, the young girl that was murdered, I believe this tunnel right here is what was used. I showed that to Homeland Security in July of 2019, and 2 weeks later they dug up the ground and poured concrete. I've got that on video. There's a whole nother story. But what I want to show you, remember I pointed out over here between Target and Home Depot, something, where the asphalt, once again, you can see has been changed, torn up, and that's where, I was going, there's something looks like that might be underground there. It's just, maybe it's nothing, maybe it's connected to the 4 underground homes, because I don't know where the underground homes is, are located. I suspected one of the other underground homes is in this lot right here, okay? And this is on, this is Westmont Court, this is Whittle Way. There's an empty lot because a woman told me a half block from my house was one of the underground homes, and that's about a half block away. And this home had the same mortar problem that my home had. And I believe the mortar problem came from digging underneath the home, okay? And then there was another home over here. This is the Fairmont Park Church of Christ. I believe it's this home right here had a mortar problem, okay? And the other thing, there was a water well here. So this home had a mortar problem, a water well. My home had a mortar problem. There's a water well in the next door neighbor right next to it. And that home I pointed out over here has a mortar problem and has a water well. Okay, so I'm thinking that might be 3 of the underground homes, which is really important because it's tied back into multiple murders, capital murders. And what I didn't mention is the previous owner of my home died the week before the 2008 oil show started. I believe he was murdered here, and it's also connected to these underground oil show parties. Okay. But that leaves a 4th one, and that's what I wanted to point out up there on that map. Okay, so here on Google Earth, I can do the dated pictures with this slide bar right here. And so I can just slide it on, and then that changes it to February 2013. And you can still see it, where the asphalt's a different color right there. Here's my home. Okay, I'm going to show you that. And so... anyways, I want to show you that. Here's some of the other things having to do with Home Depot. This is interesting. This is a print screen that I saved because somebody wrote this, and I thought, oh, that's important. And it was somebody named Flo Rivas Roach. It says, my son works at Home Depot, and his coworkers heard kids underneath the bathroom floor. And that bathroom floor let me go back. I'm going to show you where I believe the bathroom floor is in that building. And I think that might be possible. I think that bathroom floor is back here on the back side of the building. Right? Remember where it looks like that tunnel is coming directly at my house? That's where I think that bathroom is at, right there. I think if you took that tunnel, that's where it actually run into where that bathroom was at. And then so anyway, that was one, documented right here. This one was another one. A Facebook friend wrote this, and he asked his friend, he said, I mentioned the basement being under the Midland Home Depot to the girl I know, and she says, how do you know this? Be careful who you're telling to this, and how that's bad, how that's dangerous. You need to be careful who you're talking to about that, okay? So she warned him that it's extremely dangerous to talk about the basement under the Midland Home Depot store, okay? So there's another one. And then finally here, this is a little hard to see. Let me pause it and fix my screen. Okay, and so here, this is an email from Julia Weidman, and she lives up there in Dallas, Fort Worth. This is in 2019, November. And Julia is an expert in underground structures. She knew that there was a required documentation that the city has to keep for underground structures like, underground basements, storm shelters, or whatever. She schedules a meeting with the city of Midland, drives herself, pays for this, drives from Dallas, Fort Worth to Midland to meet with the Midland people. She had heard my story, on the internet. Okay, so she meets with this man here, and actually I'll just read what she told me here. She says, James Rawls is who she meets with, and she says he was clearly prepared to tell me about the missing records, okay? It says, the basis of our conversation was IRC, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. He went on, got the book in another room. When I brought up, Fort Worth uses 2015, but Midland uses 2018. But according to Rawls, there had been no changes, et cetera, or whatever. And when I asked him about the permit records for storm shelters in Midland, he, with a smile, told me that all the permit records prior to 2015 had been destroyed or lost due to an attempt to digitize the department's records in 2014, 2015. Now, keep in mind, I'm ambushed shot in 2012, okay, a premeditated capital attempted murder, right? And with somebody under my home, and I'm finding all this evidence, and we accidentally destroy the records, okay? And she says, I asked him twice if he was the gatekeeper for these records, and he answered that he was. In other words, there wasn't nowhere else to go but his office, as in they deleted, them records are gone, okay? And it says, when I brought up the subject of the basement at Home Depot, it clearly unnerved him, but he was downright gloating about those missing records, okay? So that's what Julia told me. And so I Googled James Rawls that worked for the city of Midland, found out he used to work for Home Depot, that was on his LinkedIn account, I thought that was interesting. I'm going to look here. I'm going to show you just a few more things on. Okay, this here is from a video I got. This is when 2 weeks after I met Homeland Security, I showed them where I believe that tunnel was going from the Home Depot store to my house, used for the oil show parties, because I believe it's connected to human trafficking, connected to that forced prostitution murder of that young girl that Angie told me about, and Homeland's supposed to take care of prostitution and human trafficking and all that. That's why we were here, okay? So I show them where this human trafficking murder tunnel's at. 2 weeks later, the ground is being dug up and concrete's being poured there, okay? I suspected this was tampering with evidence in capital murders, About 2 weeks after I made this video, which went viral, the U.S. Congressman Mike Conaway from Midland announces his retirement. Come to find out, his brother-in-law used to live across the street from my house before I moved into this little cul-de-sac. And then about 3 months after this, the U.S. Secretary of Homeland resigned, Kevin McLennan. And I believe it was because they got caught pouring concrete here. And then 6 days after that, U.S. Secretary of Energy Rick Perry resigned, okay? And what I was suspecting was that the oil companies, were wanting to cover up the murder of that young girl at the oil show party in 2010, and they were leaning on people like U.S. Secretary of Energy Rick Perry, going, you need to cover that up for us, Rick. That's not good for stock prices. And he said, well, let's pour some concrete. And they get pour concrete and they get caught. Now they're looking at the death penalty, right? That's where I'm going. Is that what's going on here? That we're asking some very serious questions, because concrete was poured 2 weeks after I showed where I believed a human trafficking murder tunnel was located. Okay. I want to show you another one here. Okay. This here, and it's going to make more sense here in a minute when I show you the missing tree. I think I have that picture here. Let's look here. Okay. These are Google Earth dated pictures, and there's a couple things I'm looking here. Basically, I can go back in time. Okay, so this is 2008, before I moved into my house. Okay, so I'm still over in Hobbs, and the last homeowner's still alive, and here he is. Remember that he died the week before the 2008 oil show started, and in the backyard's where it's believed that there's an oil show party. Okay, and so what I'm pointing with this arrow is in the neighbor's backyard, there's nothing there, okay? And so that's important because it's timestamped. But by December 2009, there's a suspected tunnel entrance in that backyard. Sometime in between, 2008 and 2009, there was a suspected tunnel entrance put in my next door neighbor's backyard, okay? And at that same time, that's when he dies, and I transfer into town as the next unsuspecting homeowner, right? And then they start all over again, okay? And then here's some more dated pictures on the bottom here. And this one is in 2014, in October 2014. And all I'm showing is still there, okay? And also I want to look at this line of trees right here, okay? In 2014, but we look at the 2016 picture and it's gone. So they took it out. Okay, so they removed that because I had found it and I was posting on my Facebook, look here, here's a suspected tunnel entrance, and I had survived a murder attempt, and they took it out. Okay, and then also they took out this live tree, and that was where another suspected tunnel entrance was located, was right there, was two side-by-side manholes was right where that live tree was at. And that's why I said I wanted to look at that picture before I looked at the other one here, because this is where the missing tree is, okay? This is the other side of the Home Depot side of the wall, and that's what I'm showing you. My home is this way, okay? Here's West Manhole. Here's East Manhole. And that's weird because you got two manholes next to each other, side by side. Okay, here's where the tree was, the live tree, and it's been taken out, okay? And, and I was suspecting that this manhole was connected to tunnels that went to my house used for human trafficking, okay? Here's a telephone pole with this is the mystery sudden link. That cable went into the ground and nobody could tell me where it went. I believe it supplied cable internet to the underground homes in my backyard, okay? And then, but what I point pointing this out, on the curb, somebody took blue paint and marked that here. You see that paint? There and there, they marked it. I wonder if there wasn't a tunnel right there, and that's why they marked that curb. So I'm just going to show you that. So I think the Home Depot store has a connection, to the crimes here, and they probably, if that's the case, they don't want that to go public. I would think that'd be the truth. But we've got a little girl that's dead. The remains of a 14 to 21-year-old little black girl was found in 2013, and my friend Angie told me about a young girl being murdered in 2010, and like I said, she was leaving my home and at the party in 5 minutes. It's obvious they were in them underground homes. Multiple people documents saying they were here, including the guys running for sheriff. So, we need to get something done about this. Buddy Webb, Midland, Texas.